welcome to Overtime Hockey Talk. You wouldn't believe the bananas that we've been having just before we hit the record button. It's unfortunate that nobody caught Justin singing bananas in time. But welcome to the show. Justin, how's it going? Mike.
Oh, yeah. Hi. I feel like one of the minions right now called it Banana Talk.
Right. Anyway, I guess I forgot to say that, you're Justin Baker. I'm Mark Paul, and we co-host this show together, and we are here to talk about hockey. Just talking hockey for the first time in a little while. I feel like we did previews and we did a list last time, so it's nice to just kind of be like, let's just talk about what's going on, and there is plenty going on as we're about 13 to 15 games into the regular season. I guess some teams have played 17 now. But on today's show, it's gonna be positive. We're going the positive route, and we're gonna do all the teams that are surprising us thus far, and who in a good way. So we definitely like that. But before I do that, I do want to just draw attention to one thing. I wonder, when is the last time 15 games into the regular season? This is negative, by the way. I have to go negative once. That's the rule.
Okay.
I wonder what, first off, I guess it would be the 1974-75 Washington Capitals are probably the longest to go without a win in regulation. But the Anaheim Ducks right now, 15 games in, have not won a game in regulation yet.
Insane.
Yeah. So I mean, and the even the Columbus Blue Jackets have won 3 games in regulation. Now, I mean, hey, good on Anaheim. They've won 4 games in the extra time and shootout, but I mean, even the St. Louis Blues have won 4 games in regulation. The next lowest is the San Jose Sharks at 2. But it'll be interesting to see how long that goes. Nothing like tracking futility. But let's jump into your first positive surprise from this season. Where are we going first, Justin?
Oh, I'm going to go with the New Jersey Devils.
Sure.
Start there, because that's the obvious choice, right? Or maybe one of the more obvious choices, only because, and not necessarily because of where they were last year and where they are now, but more or less because they started off the year with the fire Lindy chants, and now, literally, I can't remember if it was last game or the game before, but they literally had the sorry Lindy chants going on.
Sorry, they should be saying re-sign Lindy.
Right. I mean, it's going so well, and you think for a team that brought in Andrew Burnett to be your assistant coach, essentially, almost signaling, hey, Lindy, your leash is very short, because we got this other guy here who was a Jack Adams nominee that we're going to put right behind you. And they've only gone 9-1 in their last 10. They've 7-2 at home, 5-1 away. This team is just clicking on all cylinders. I mean, they lead the Metro Division in goals for and actually goals against as well. They're plus 17 goal differential. That's the best in that division too, with some stacked defensive teams like Carolina, the Islanders. You think, man, they could have a shot at making the playoffs coming this year, but they're just running away with the division. It seems like for 2 teams like the Rangers and Carolina, I figured would be pushing for the division. They're sitting pretty in 3rd and 4th place. So
yeah, I mean, if you look at right now the standings, and based off of the teams that made the playoffs last year into this year, I mean, you've got 3 teams leading their division that did not make the playoffs last year.
Right.
And that's, I mean, we're not talking 6 games in. I mean, 16 games in is no slouch. Like, I think at this point you're going, all right, the Devils, they are for real. Like, they might not win the division, but they're definitely for real. And it would be very disappointing if they missed the playoffs now. Like, we're to that point where I think that team's going to make the playoffs because, surprise, surprise, they're getting average goaltending. and they're
right.
and they're good, and they're doing well. And you've got the Islanders. They missed the playoffs last year, and they're second in that division. I mean, Detroit's tied with Florida and Tampa Bay, or with Florida, sorry, and Tampa Bay. So they're right on the doorstep of the playoffs, although they've kind of slouched a little bit. But I mean, there's Winnipeg leads the Central, Vegas leads the Pacific. I mean, it may be one of those years where we finally get a big turnaround in teams that make and miss the playoffs, because we haven't had that in a long time. It's been like the same 12 or 13 teams in the playoffs practically every year for the last 6 or 7 years.
I know. You think like, every year you just might as well just automatically write in Pittsburgh and Washington and throw Boston in there. But now it's like, well, maybe the tides are changing a little bit, right?
Yeah, it definitely makes for a more interesting start. I'm not willing to throw the Pittsburgh Penguins out with the bathwater yet, though, because they
no.
They seem to do this every year. They have really slow starts, and then they figure it out in January, and then all of a sudden we're like, wait, the Penguins are leading their division? So we'll see if that.
I'm hoping who's going to do that again is the St. Louis Blues, because gosh, I can't remember what year it was. They were like 20 games in, last place in the league.
Right,
and then they took the division.
Yeah. 2019.
Was it 19? Okay, yeah.
It was the year before all the COVID craziness.
Right, yeah. So I can't count them out yet either. So
sure, and again, we're some teams have played 17 games. The Blues, they've only played 13. So they get, let's say they go and they rattle off 3 wins. Well, suddenly they're in the wild card position. So it's all tight right now, but you are starting to get a picture of what some of these teams are, and maybe more specifically how teams are playing against some of these teams. Let's keep talking New Jersey, because there's just some special things that are happening there. I want to go back to our Metropolitan Division preview. I think we both had New Jersey kind of in that bubble. Like we thought, well, they could make the playoffs, but they could also maybe finish last. Like just kind of depended. They do have a 100.1 PDO, so they're definitely getting, their shooting percentage is 9.9%, which is on the high end. But you know what? They're still actually they're getting less than 900 save percentage right now. So they're winning. They've won 12 out of 15 games with, frankly, like under average goaltending. The league average right now is 901 save percentage, and they're at an 896. So, but I guess actually the league average shooting percentage is also 9.9. So there's that. But I mean, I know we talked so much about Jack Hughes, and I think I said that this could be his 100-point season. Like this could be his absolute breakout. I don't think that. I think you kind of had the same thought that it would definitely probably be his big year, where he kind of surges himself into the conversation. And you know what? He's been real good so far. I mean, I don't think there's anyone out there that's going, oh man, Jack Hughes. I mean, he's a point per game guy right now. 5 goals through 15 games, maybe a little low, but honestly, I feel like the guy that we didn't talk about enough is the other centerman taken first overall by the New Jersey Devils, and that's Nico Hischier, because he has been phenomenal. Like maybe he could be in the Hart conversation. That's how good he has been so far.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, right? Because listen, when I look at this team's lineup and the way they're built, right? Jesper Bratt obviously is, the leading point getter for this team, but he's playing with Jack Hughes, right? So those two guys, they have a good chemistry. They're doing really good things on that second line. But Nico Hischier, I mean, he plays with, Thomas Tatar and Zetterlund. So Thomas Tatar's an okay winger, but he's still a middle 6 guy in my opinion.
Hey, I'd trade a first, second, and a third round pick for him, all right?
Yeah, but I mean, you look at the way he's doing it too. Nico Hischier's doing this all 5-on-5 because he's only got 3 power play points out of his 17. So 14 of those are coming at even strength.
He's been an absolute monster.
Yeah, and he's almost at a 60% faceoff percentage too for a guy that is just. I mean, again, he's supposed to be like, Bergeron 2.0.
Right.
That's the way he was looked at, but he's producing a little bit better offensively than Bergeron does, in my opinion. So, I mean, this is all great stuff. And the best part about it is when you look at time on ice, Hischier and Hughes are basically identical. They're 2 seconds averaging difference, as far as that's concerned. So really, there's not a true number one, but in my opinion, right, Hischier's the guy you want out there defensively. And he's winning the draws, he's winning the battles, and he's doing it 5-on-5, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, and his Corsi numbers are insane. 62.4. I mean, the guy just is a possession monster. He is starting 53. He's like basically almost 50-50 for his zone starts. 53% in the offensive zone. So he's starting in the offensive zone. He's not taking all the defensive faceoffs like some defensive specialists would do, but holy jumping, he is having a great start to the year. I know his shooting percentage is quite high at this point. What is it? It's 17.4%. His career average 12.2. So yeah, that comes down a little bit, but that's maybe the difference of a goal. I mean, he's shooting the puck plenty. He's got over 3 shots a game, which for a centerman who isn't necessarily a goal scorer, his career high last year, 21 goals in 70 games. So that's maybe a 25 goal season. And right now we're looking at somebody who is almost certainly going to score 30 if he continues even close to this pace, and maybe a 40 goal season, which, I mean, if the Devils keep going on this pace, I don't see why they wouldn't. They're so fast. It's funny, the teams that you thought were fast, and then you go watch the Devils play. And man, it just reminds me of when they had Taylor Hall, and they almost were doing this like the forecheck with tons of speed before other teams were doing it. They just didn't have the horses to do it back then. But I remember, I think it was Jesper Bratt who was a rookie that year, and he was in there like kind of learning that from John Hines. I want to say that was Jesper Bratt. Was that Bratt? 2016? Did they make the playoffs that year? Or am I thinking?
Yeah, that was the Taylor Hall year.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I knew. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going crazy. Yeah. And I just remember that he was he was that guy going and using his speed to forecheck, and that was really the reason that, I mean, Taylor Hall was the reason the Devils went to the playoffs, but the Devils had a ton of speed, and they've really built that up over the years, and now with Hischier and Jack Hughes, two very quick centermen, they just keep moving ahead. And I mean, we haven't even touched on their defense, who's having a great start as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they have one of the youngest teams in the league too, which is even more impressive.
Yeah, what do you think about this team come playoff time? Because I wonder. I mean, it's not as if they don't go and win a round, and nobody's going to be mad. But I wonder if they still don't quite have that defensive, the goaltending, like the playoff style type of players quite yet. I wonder if that'll be an issue come playoff time. But
yeah, I mean, I think whether or not you make the playoffs or not is irrelevant. I think for this team, you want them to battle and be close, because to me, that's the next step, right? So, from where they were last year, if you can battle and get close to a playoff spot, that's a step up, and that's what you want to keep doing. But
well, sure looks like they're going to make the playoffs.
Right. And yeah, ultimately, if they end up in the playoffs, I mean, hell, just, even if they get swept in the first round, it's still a playoff experience that I think a lot of these younger guys are going to need and ultimately, use to take this team to the next level.
All right. That's the New Jersey Devils, the second place team in the NHL right now, just absolutely crushing it. Who's their, what's the name of their, I just closed out the window because I was going to move on. A goalie that's played like 2 games for them.
Oh, Schmid.
Akira Schmid, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's just trucked his way through the last 2 games. 2-0, 1.63 goals against. So it'll be fun to see, because everyone's injured now. So it'll be fun to see what he can do for the Devils, and if that brings them to even higher heights. Imagine if they have a goalie who's super hot, what that offense can do. It's crazy. But, there is one team whose offense has been even more impressive than the New Jersey Devils. And I don't think either one of us saw this coming. Did you see the Boston Bruins leading the league in goals?
No. No way.
And I mean, like, they have what? Who's the second place team in the league is, funny enough, is the Dallas Stars and the Los Angeles Kings. Oh, the Vegas Golden Knights, 59. But they got a lot more goals than a lot of teams, which is, I I'm kind of baffled as to how the Bruins are doing this with the essentially the same team plus Krejci minus a lot of injured players who are now back. But
Charlie McAvoy, right? I mean, basically for the entire year.
Well, he's coming back.
Well,
right?
yeah. But what I mean is, like, he's been gone for a majority of the year.
Right.
So,
he came back a couple games ago, right? Yeah, he's played 3 games. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the point is, I mean, basically all they added was a second line center. I mean, that was really the difference, right?
A second line center who, let's be honest, the last year that he played wasn't really one of the better second line centers in the league.
No, he was still a good second line center, but I mean, we saw in the World Championships just the chemistry he had with Pasta, and it's paid off apparently. My God!
And apparently, Hampus Lindholm's going to win the Norris.
Right. It sure looks like it. He or Erik Karlsson, because my God.
I mean, I don't think that anybody saw Hampus Lindholm being a point per game defenseman.
No, especially after his showing in the playoffs last year with Boston and the end of the season, like what he produced then, it was just like, okay, well, this guy's going to be, a number 3 defenseman at best. And
yeah, boy, I mean, his career high is 34 points. He did that when he was 21 years old in 14-15. And his career high for goals is 13. He had a nice year in 17-18, but that's a 13's a tough number to get to for most defensemen. He already has 4 though, but 17 points through 16 games. He's going to obliterate his career high, just destroy it. And he's only the highest he ever finished in Norris voting was 17th, and he did that in 15-16. So I think something's going on with Hampus Lindholm. He has found maybe Jim Montgomery here. This is his wizardry. We saw what he was able to do in Dallas before he had to. I don't know. I can't remember if he resigned or was fired, but
yeah, he was having some alcohol problems and went to AA and yeah.
When he left the team,
yes,
Montgomery was we were all surprised because Dallas was doing so well, and really it was the defenseman. It was Heiskanen and John Klingberg. I think we're having great starts. So maybe he's just he's that whisperer. He knows how to grab defensemen and make them more offensive. Apparently, because what the Bruins have been able to do has been impressive. Now I do take some solace in the fact that yes, they've won I think 11 out of their last 12, but the only loss they have is to the Leafs. So. So the Leafs are still the best team in the league by that standard.
Boy.
That stupid standard of this team, Team A beat Team B, and then Team B beat Team C. So therefore, this team could be, that whole deal where.
So Arizona's the best team in the league.
Right. Yeah, stupid. If we can beat them and they can beat them, then we must be the best. Yeah, so I'm impressed with the way the Bruins are doing it. Also, they've kind of got that Swayman Allmark thing down, just swapping every other game for the most part, which does get a little confusing for fantasy. I'm not going to lie, but the annoying thing about fantasy is that you can look and go, oh, when was their last game? Okay, I could go and dig, I could figure out who played the last game, but I just want it to tell me hey, the last game they played, he didn't start. Just show me the team and if my goalie started, so that I know who to put in. Because oftentimes they don't confirm who's going to be in net until right before the game or something like that. And it throws me off. I just sometimes I don't have time when you're trying to just quick change your lineup, and you just. I don't always want to go digging for every team. I think for the 4 leagues that I'm in. But how's your fantasy team doing, by the way?
3-1. Can't complain.
Okay. Yeah.
I got shellacked last week by 150 points, but
yeah, same. I got whooped last week. I lost by what was the score of this one? Let's see. The score of last week. Oh, the stupid thing. The Yahoo app is just atrocious sometimes. Yeah, I lost by exactly 150.4 points last week. I got crushed. Absolutely crushed. But, when Pasternak had him 55 points. So what am I going to do?
Yeah, I know. I think everybody that was on the team I played just had monster weeks. And then, of course, my guys Barkov and Larkin and Eichel just were like, meh.
Yeah,
meh.
I've taken Matthews in a couple leagues, and he's been fine, but he hasn't been third best in the league at this point, especially because of his goals being down. So that's hurt me early on, but he'll pick it up. I have Connor McDavid in one, so that's been nice. He's been okay so far.
Patty Kane, literally hasn't scored a goal in 8 games for me. What the frick, guy? Come on.
Yeah, well, he's trying to. They told him, "Hey, man, could you just not try for a little while? We really want to lose."
Feels like it. So yeah. But anyways, fantasy aside, it's
yeah. Well, let's go to our next surprise team. I think it's just natural for us to head on over to the Central and go Winnipeg Jets, who lead the division at 9-4-1. And even a few weeks ago, it didn't look like the Jets were anything special, and they've certainly gone and Hellebuck's gone and rattled off some wins for them, and here they are 7-2-1 in their last 10. So started the season off 2-2, and since then have won 7 out of 10. So what do you think of this Jets team?
Yeah, anytime you can have a goaltender that's leading the way, not only am I excited, but I'm also scared shitless for your team too, because at any point can the wheels just come right off if you're relying that much on a goaltender, right? So you look at the games. It's been 11-3 games, Hellebuyck versus Rittich, and of course I don't trust Rittich as far as I can throw him. He wasn't really that good anywhere he's been. So I don't know why Winnipeg decided he was the backup that they needed. But, obviously Eric Comrie signed his deal, went elsewhere, and good for him. But out of all the backups, they chose probably one of the more poor ones. I would have rather gone out and got Martin Jones, in my opinion, who's playing great in Seattle. But
yes. And Seattle is probably the next team on our list.
Right. Yeah, we could talk about them too. But, look, you, at this point, it looks like Connor Hellebuyck's going to play 70-some games. Because I don't know if again, with this division, the way they are, you're going to have Dallas and Colorado, chasing you all year long. And then you still got to worry about Minnesota. That's always going to be in the thick of it. I feel like they have to figure it out eventually, right? But, again, I think Hellebuyck is the story of this team. Obviously, they're getting, some scoring from everywhere. Blake Wheeler seems to have found, his old self a little bit. He's starting to produce, at a much higher rate than, especially than last year. And it's coming even strength, too. They're not producing a ton on the power play. So, when your leading scorer is Josh Morrissey and he's got 11 even strength points, that's pretty dang good right now. So, Mark Scheifele looks like he's clicking on all cylinders. Pierre-Luc Dubois is playing well. So, when you got all these guys who are supposed to play well, the one guy who's surprising me more than anybody else is Kyle Connor. He's been a perennial 40-goal scorer. He's only got 2 goals so far this year.
Yeah,
Mark Scheifele with 10.
My guess is that's coming from the coach.
Right.
We know exactly what it looked like in Dallas. Oh my gosh, his name's escaping me. But what's their coach's name? Oh my gosh.
Jim Montgomery?
No. Winnipeg's coach is Rick Bowness. There we go.
Oh, Rick Bowness. Yeah.
Yeah. Just, their lack of offense doesn't surprise me. Also, I think based on what this team has been in the past, which is a team that, hey, they can always score goals and their top 6 is always great, but they were lazy defensively. And I think what you're seeing is a coach who is not willing to let this team be lazy defensively. And so, yes, players are buying in, but it's not yet correlated on the score sheet for them, especially at Kyle Connor. I know he's injured. I would think that maybe he'd be in this. Nicholas Ehlers would be on the same page, with Ehlers kind of being known as an irresponsible defensive player, but just great offensively. As soon as he touches the puck, he's go, go, go. But I would think that this is just some of the growing pains. And hey, you know what? If a 9-4-1 start is your growing pains, you're probably in a pretty good spot. So yep. I am on the same page as you, though, that, can Hellebuyck keep up a .935 save percentage? That's going to be tough. However, he has at least shown in the past that he is he's a top 5 goalie. I mean, he won the freaking Vezina 5 years ago. So it's not as if it's not there. That year he finished with a .922 save percentage. And I mean, hey, a .910 last year, a .916 the year before. This guy has always been, he's always been good. It's never been a question of whether or not he's good. Now, his team didn't play super well in front of him, and he had a .910 save percentage. Now his team's playing well in front of him, and he's got a .935 save percentage. So it just kind of shows you how important that structure is in front of you for a goaltender.
Yeah, almost an entire goals against on average down than it was last year. So if they can keep close to that, I mean, that'll obviously
you're going to win tons of games.
Yeah,
you're going to win tons of games. Let's see. I mean, he's just been so important. And I do wonder, out of all those teams that are leading their division right now, I would say they are the least likely to stay there. Now, granted, they are tied, and it's such a tight division that Central, in comparison, to maybe like the Bruins are 9 points up on the Leafs right now. They're already like 9 points up, and we're 16 games in. The Devils 4 points up on the Islanders, but yeah, I don't see the Winnipeg Jets. They're maybe the one team I could say they may still miss the playoffs.
Yeah, Colorado's starting to figure it out right now, so they're rolling.
Yeah, you've got Colorado. You also, I mean, things haven't looked great in Nashville so far, but I wonder if is this team a 6-8, like a pure 500 team? I think they're a little better than that. You've got St. Louis, who's been in the dumps. They've won 2 in a row now, though, so maybe they kind of start pulling themselves up. And I mean, also Minnesota had an atrocious start to the year, but now they're 6-3-1. So these teams are starting to come, and it's going to be hard, I think, for Winnipeg to hold on to this. However, they are setting themselves up. Like, they're in a position now to make the playoffs because of their start, and that's huge.
Yep.
Should we go to the Seattle Supersonics over here?
Let's do it. The Seattle Millionaires.
How many Seattle professional teams that are no longer there can we list off? I wish I knew more. Yeah, the Seattle Kraken. I mean, they have been. What's there to say about the Kraken in terms of like what has changed from this year to next? It's pretty easy. It's their goal scoring ability. They're actually scoring goals. 52 goals in 16 games. They're at more than 3 goals a game, and that is the difference. I wouldn't say that their goaltending has been like fantastic by any means, but when you go from scoring less than 3 goals a game, 2.5 goals a game to over 3 goals a game, and that's just going to change your whole team. Where are you at with the Seattle team? Have you gotten a chance to watch them at all?
Yeah, I've watched a couple games, and I'll tell you what. I mean, it's easy to see why people root for this team, right? I mean, you look at the lineup just on paper; it's a bunch of third and second line guys, with the potential of Matty Beniers and Shane Wright in the future. But Brandon Tanev is just fun to watch. Morgan Geekie, fun to watch. These guys are just like they're heart and soul kind of guys where you just want to root for them to play well. And they are playing well, which is great. And they're not getting scoring from just one guy. I mean, you look at their goal scoring. You mentioned it. They've got 7 guys with 4 or more goals already on this team. And so, with that kind of balanced scoring, if you're a team saying, okay, well, who are we going to go, what line are we going to watch this time? Or, who are we going to, target this time? Well, really, you can't really pick one because you got a guy in, like, for example, Morgan Geekie, who plays 10 minutes a night, and he's already got 8 points in 13 games, a plus 12. I mean, what the frick? This guy's got. I think almost pretty sure, I haven't looked at the stat, but so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but he leads the league in goals per 60 minutes played. I mean, it's pretty dang good. So
yeah, and those are always that stat is always so, I'll say, deceiving, because he's obviously playing where he should be playing.
Right.
You know, when you have, I remember Athanasiou he led the league in goals scored per 60, and people were like, see, he should be playing on the first line somewhere, and he'd be getting way more goals. And then he was given every opportunity over and over again, and he could not replicate it, because Athanasiou is a third line player with a lot of speed. But he's a specialty kind of player, and he looks so good when he's out there. But if you play him too much and you play him against too good of talented players, he's a mess.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other big thing for me is I always love it when you have a good goaltending story, right? I mean, last year this team couldn't get anything better than an .890 save percentage, and when you got Martin Jones putting up an .810 save percentage, I mean, his last 5 or 6 games, it's even higher than that. His numbers have been. So, when you get that kind of, a 20-point boost, essentially, you're gonna get a few more wins out of it. So, I hope Martin Jones is the story. They went and brought back, and the other great thing is they brought back, Hellberg, what's his name, from Ottawa, when they put him on waivers because Cam Talbot's back in. So he gets to come back, and hopefully we get to see those Kraken pads finally strapped on. So we'll see if he gets some time here, because obviously Joey Daccord is not really an NHL netminder, but
right.
But still, I mean, neither is Philip Grubauer. Hasn't looked like one either. But still,
he
gets
not been very good. Man, what a bullet dodged for the Colorado Avalanche to not sign him to a monster deal.
Yeah, and sometimes you wonder, with things like that, like, is it really the system, right, that benefits the goaltender, or is it the goaltender that's creating the system, right? And so, I think, in the case of Grubauer, clearly, he only plays good when he's with good teams, right? And I mean, yes, you could say that just about any
most of the time. That's the case, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, you look at a guy like Jordan Binnington, right? I look at him last year, and you say, okay, well, clearly St. Louis was a pretty good team, 5-on-5 aside, and Husso did good, but Binnington couldn't do it,
right?
So and of course Husso now goes to Detroit, who in my opinion, hasn't been, has been all right, but he's putting up phenomenal numbers. So sometimes it's just the goaltender, but. Obviously in this case, it clearly was a goaltender that looked better because of the team in front of him.
Yeah. Something else that I can appreciate about the Kraken is that, I mean, you've got 3 players who lead this team in goals with 5 goals. And you've got 4 players with 4 goals, 2 players with 3 goals, 5 players with 2 goals, and and 5 more with 1. The goal scoring is just all spread out, and that's a wonderful problem to have. I mean, granted, some of these guys' shooting percentages are insane, but the way that they are, kind of the way that they're playing, it bends itself to maybe having higher shooting percentage because they are holding on to the puck a little bit more. But I mean, it's still the fact that they have players who can score all throughout their lineup. Like, they're just getting goals from everyone. And, maybe this team is not likely a playoff team. In my opinion, I don't think that Edmonton's going to miss the playoffs. Calgary's probably not going to miss the playoffs here. Seattle's Seattle is 8-8. Like, they're a 500 team so far. They just happen to lose a few games in overtime, and they are getting better goaltending. They're a better team than last year. However, it would not be good for this team long term for them to make the playoffs right now. They just need to be in the conversation for longer than 6 weeks, like they were last year. And this year's been fun so far. They look good. They actually are running a system that is benefiting the team because they don't have that superstar player. They don't have one player who's going to do it all, and they've got a pretty balanced forward group. And when you look at their time on ice, I mean, most of these guys are playing 17, 16 minutes a night. And that's perfect, especially when you consider that Matty Beniers is, one of their top 2 centers here, and he's a rookie. He had a nice start to the year, but he's still defensively making mistakes. and I think teams have kind of they put a little focus on him, and it's been a little harder for him after the start that he had. But it's the way to bring along a young kid like Beniers. Don't really like the way they did Shane Wright, but that's just sort of is what it is right now. We'll see kind of what transpires long term for Shane Wright.
Yeah, that's one of those situations where it kind of peeves me that, there's rules with, where you can send guys to the AHL
Sure.
and stuff like that. And because for Shane Wright's one of those guys where really going back to juniors is not the best move for him, right?
I mean, I think at this point it is.
Well, maybe, maybe now hindsight, yeah. But, initially coming into this season and maybe even a few games in, you're thinking, juniors probably isn't the best. He should be playing up here. Honestly, I thought he should have been in the AHL, and really the only way you could do that is, conditioning stints and garbage like that. But
yeah, I don't think that it's that Dave Hackstall doesn't like him. I think that it's Dave Hackstall's going, I am not going to let someone play that's not playing as well as, you think of the other centers that they've got. Matty Beniers, and granted he could play on the wing, but Beniers and Jared McCann, you're not going to play him over him, and the wingers that they do have are playing all right, and you're not going to just give him a ton of minutes just because that doesn't benefit anyone. You don't want to have a team where, hey, this guy was our first round draft pick, so he's going to get time on ice. Like, you're just not going to do that. So yeah, maybe it's I don't know. It is an unusual way to go about it. 8 minutes for your 19-year-old kid a game through 7 games. It's unusual. At this point, I think that you just got to go, well, if the coach isn't going to play him, then you got to send him to the minors. Or you got to fire the coach, which you're not going to do because of one player. So I think, sorry, not the minors, the OHL. I think you send him to the OHL, you let him go play, and maybe this is some of the reasoning is that they're just going to go let him play in World Juniors, and maybe they don't want him to go to the team that he was on in the OHL. I can't remember what team it was. Kingston? Is it Kingston that he was on? I don't think that they're very good, and I think that that's some of the issue is they don't want him to go to this crap hole team. But they could find a trade. It wouldn't be very hard to trade him, and it would be good for everyone, I think, if he went to the OHL. But thus far, it has not happened, and I would at least like the team to come out and say, "Hey, here's what we're doing with Shane Wright. Here's why we aren't sending him to the OHL. We've had this conversation with him, and as far as I know, I haven't heard any of that happening, any of that conversation." And so that I think is what confuses me, is that why is it that there hasn't been communication to fans, and it's no sweat off my back, but if I was a fan, I'd want to know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're, a fan who's just, again, I assume most of the fans for Seattle are hardcore fans now at this point that are just really rooting for this team to, be relevant at some point. You've never had hockey there, and you want a good team, right? You don't want to be crappy for too long. And, I think when you get a number 4 pick and a guy who is projected to be the number 1 overall for so long, you want to see what he can do, right? You want to see this guy come out and just, especially coming out of that draft when you think he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, you're hoping that the coach will just cut him loose and let him go play and tear up the league. But obviously it's not the case.
Yeah, it was pretty clear that he's just not ready for it. He also had a couple junior years cut short. He's got the talent. It's just a matter of, allowing him to grow as a player and as a man. And I just don't. 8 minutes a game.
You can't develop anybody at 8 minutes a game. Let's be honest.
I just feel like there's also I totally understand going, well, this guy's playing better. So how is it not how would it be fair to, let's throw out name. How would it be fair to Jared McCann, who's only getting 14 minutes a game? How is it fair to him to lower his minutes or to lower Jaden Schwartz's minutes, who's getting big time minutes against guys just in terms of for development? But I think you can also go, hey, look, Wenberg, hey, like whoever it may be, we're gonna play him with you, or hey, we're gonna play this guy a little bit more. You're gonna get a few fewer minutes, and we're just gonna allow him to play with different players, or we're gonna come up with a plan to where he's playing more. Because at this point, you really aren't concerned about going out and winning tons. You're not trying to make the playoffs. I mean, I guess as a coach you are, but there should be some like, hey, the important thing is that Shane Wright is a good player for 15 years for us. We don't want to stunt his growth by not playing him at all, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm not sure how we got down this road because we were supposed to be positive today, Justin. Son of a bitch. Well, we tried. Any final teams you wanna hit on before we kick it?
Boy,
okay, I'll give you one more.
Yeah. I you know what? I'll give a small nod to Toronto.
Oh, a small nod.
Yeah. Not necessarily go, with a big kudos like we have been these other teams, but a small tip of the cap to Toronto because, the way they started the season and the way the rest of the division was going, and I had a moment of worry, and now, and especially with all their goaltenders going down, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a sinking ship pretty quick. I'm not necessarily worried about them not making the playoffs, but this was a team that I personally thought would win this division. Now, I don't know if they can still do that against Boston the way they're playing, but this certainly looks like a much better team. And again, goaltending's still a question mark, but and Jake Muzzin, just finding out today, he's pretty much done for.
I think this is it for Muzzin. I think he's going to have to retire. Well, he'll be on LTIR for
right.
What, another? I'm not sure how many years he has left on his contract, but it's a few.
Yeah, but I mean, regardless, I think Toronto's done pretty good for a team that was missing such a piece like that. Austin Matthews hasn't been scoring at the rate he did last year. I think this team, again, just has held the ship a little bit better than I was expecting over the last couple of weeks. And, and then of course, over this weekend with Salming coming out for the Hockey Hall of Fame stuff, just classiness all around.
Yeah. That was both times that he was honored, but particularly the Saturday night game. It's cool because like my dad's dad, my granda, his favorite player was Borje Salming, and they immigrated from Ireland to Toronto in the late 60s or like early 70s or something like that. So he was his favorite player, and so it was just a cool little tip to him.
Yeah, and they started. What was really great for me is Toronto started 5 Swedish players.
Right. Pretty
cool. Start the game, which was great.
This is the Swedish class.
Right.
This is the ultimate Swedish class. Both Sedins. You've got Alfredsson, and the other one was Luongo, who I guess played with the Sedins, and then there was I can't remember the female's name. She was like a Finnish, I think, is what she was. Mm-hmm. All-time leading European scorer. She might be the all-time scorer in women's hockey in like tournaments. She played till she was like 46.
46.
Yeah, the last Olympics she played, she was 46.
Yeah, you're Rika Salomon.
Yes, Rika Salomon.
Yeah. Gosh, what is it? She played. I
know she played 16 years pro.
11 seasons in the Elite League in Finland. 5-time champion. Boy, she's recording an average of 2.92 points per game. She's
decent. But when it comes to you look at the Leafs goaltending, Keith Petruzzelli and Eric Källgren, who Eric Källgren started back-to-back games Friday and Saturday.
Right.
That's how desperate this team is to play him back-to-back. I know that Matt Murray's skating in practice. He could be activated any time. But I guess the nice thing is that because Muzzin is down, it really allows them they can bring back Matt Murray. There's no worries about having to juggle a lineup around because they've got plenty of cap space now. So there is that benefit. The downside, of course, being that you don't have Jake Muzzin anymore. But overall, I mean, with what this team's had to go through, they're in it. They're okay. Like, they had a disastrous start, and here they are, second in the division, and things are okay right now. I know that you're hoping to get both your goaltenders back, and that's certainly going to make a small difference. I mean, Erik Källgren has won games, but I don't think that we're going out and saying that he's been great. An .893 save percentage, not great, but still a 2.86 goals against. And that is the exact, those two numbers side by side goes, he's not playing very well, yet the team in front of him is playing well enough to decrease the amount of chances that he's seeing and giving them an opportunity to win. I don't think you would be, if you said, hey, the Leafs are going to start Erik Källgren 8 of their first 16 games, you'd go, what? What happened? What happened? But yes, it's funny to put them in the positive surprise, especially since after our last show, we talked about them playing so poorly. But here they are in the surprise. So.
Yeah. And I guess it's also, I don't know what the right term would be, but lucky that Tampa and Florida have kind of had slower starts as well. So,
well, and the other thing about it is that when you go and you look at the standings throughout the league, you really see a much more compressed, outside of New Jersey and Boston, everyone's right there. All the teams in the tops of their divisions you've got the Islanders with 20, and then down to even the Pittsburgh Penguins with 15. So we're really separated by 5 points with every team but the bottom 3 and the top 2. So that's the way that it should be. Right now you've got 4 teams with 17 points, 2 teams with 19, a couple with 16. Like, it's very tight right now. That's the way you want to see it. And last season was not like that. Last season was, in a week, we basically knew who was going to make the playoffs. And I don't think that's going to be the case this year. It's not going to be quite as cut and dry.
Right.
All right. Well, that is our show. We did our best to stay positive. What do you think, Justin? Next show, should we just slog it, be super negative, and we'll just talk about how bad Johnny Gaudreau and the Columbus Blue Jackets are, maybe? Just stay down there.
You talk about all their injuries. Werenski's gone, and now today I find out Patrick Laine's going to be gone for an extended period of time.
Oh, is he again? I didn't see that. Oh, great.
Yes. It keeps getting better for them.
Great. And but no, yeah, we'll be back next week. We'll talk we'll talk something hockey wise, and I feel like we need to, as we head into Thanksgiving, this is the time where a lot of trade talk starts to heat up. Usually, you'll start getting to that holiday break that everyone gets and the roster freeze. And a lot of teams freeze their rosters a couple weeks before Christmas. So this really is that time where usually something gets done. So I think next show we'll have to talk some possible trades, because I think there are some teams out there who definitely want to make a move. I think the Leafs are one of them. I think the St. Louis Blues are another one. I even think that you could see the Penguins or the Capitals making maybe not a crazy move, but definitely some moves. Just trying to figure out, where they're at. I mean, I don't think that either one of those teams are ready to just throw in the towel and not make the playoffs, as their time is very limited. So it'll be a fun few weeks as we lead up to Christmas. So we'll talk trades next show, if that's okay with you, Justin.
I'm okay with that, Mark.
All right. I just want to. We're communicating as a couple. I mean, a co-host.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.